Hello and welcome to the I Am Woman project, where every week we have deep, thought-provoking and interesting conversations with thought leaders, change instigators, rule breakers and creative minds who think differently, sparking creativity and inspiration. Our special guests on our show cover a variety of topics just for you, and they share their personal stories to inspire, motivate and empower you, our listener. The I Am Woman podcast is produced for your enjoyment, and show notes are found at www.catherineplano.com. Come back often and feel free to add the podcast to your favourite RSS feed or iTunes. All links are in the show notes. Now let's get into the show. Today we have Catherine Cervasio, the founder of Aromababy. Catherine is a businesswoman with experience in the areas of natural personal care, baby skincare, international trade, marketing and branding, spanning 2 decades. Catherine has conducted mother and baby wellness workshops to both midwives and consumers in several countries including Dubai, Hong Kong and China. Catherine, comfortable as the face of not only her brand, but often her industry. She is in the media for her business success story as being used as a teaching tool to educate students. Catherine also dedicates time to mentoring other women in business through workshops and as a part of the Women in Global Business program. She is a mother of 2 boys and is passionate about supporting and empowering women. Catherine is also involved in supporting disadvantaged women and children in the community, including Women's Shelter, the first of a series of free baby massage workshops. She's doing amazing things, so grab yourself a coffee, sit back and tune in. Welcome, Catherine Cervasio. How are you today?
Hello, Catherine. I'm really well, thank you.
I think I just pronounced your name in a very Italian accent then.
You
It
did.
does sound a little bit Italian.
It is Italian.
It is. Well, there you go. There you go. So, Catherine, our listeners obviously weren't listening to our conversation beforehand, but we were just talking about your business, Aromababy. So I thought maybe we could start with that a little bit, just a little bit of an introduction and how you got into it and so forth.
Sure. Look, I did leave school a little bit too early, at only 15 years old, and it perhaps might have been better if I had stayed. But look, I think what I've done is a result of being very passionate and driven and very focused on natural health and wellness, even from that young age. So I was working in an industry where I was developing some product mainly for fashion retailers like Sports Girl, and it was body care that I introduced to that group, and ended up being retrenched just before Christmas 22 years ago, and around the same time found out that we were expecting our first baby. And I switched my focus from the fashion body care to baby care, natural baby care products, and I couldn't find any available at all at the time.
And obviously, isn't it funny when you look back on, obviously you being retrenched and was having your first baby, you can see how it all was meant to happen, because obviously now you're in this business now with the Aromababy. And do you think that this would have come to fruition if you weren't pregnant?
Oh, not at all. I was very much, and I still am, sort of focused on style and fashion and beauty writing, and I do that in my other kind of role. But my whole focus, I think, I was consumed by the pregnancy, and I guess by the vulnerability of other mothers, especially during their pregnancy, where they are bombarded with subliminal marketing from different corporations. And I thought, well, if every company is kind of marketing the same type of product and the same type of formula to these new mothers, then they don't really have a choice in the type of product they use. And there was a huge incidence of eczema, and there still is, for babies, that 1 in 3 babies will get some sort of skin irritation within the first 6 months of their life. So with a lot of the ingredients that I found linking eczema and skin irritation and sensitivity to product use, I thought I was in a perfect position to change that and offer something that was going to be different.
So, Catherine, did you just started making up your own recipes at home and experimenting, or did you do some sort of research and sort of outsource that part of the business?
Oh, look, I absolutely outsourced after I'd done my research. For me, it was never going to be something that I made in the kitchen. I wanted to be on par with the leading brands of the world, and that meant proper formulations, a lot of education and sort of information around what was suitable for infant skin versus what was on the market already, and making sure that I had really high quality facilities that had traceability and accountability to make sure that these were going to be safe and effective products for the intended user, which were pregnant women and new mothers and of course their young babies.
That's amazing. So what kind of products do you have as part of your range?
Look, we have pretty much everything that we believe new families could need without overkill. So we don't have 10 washes and 5 different lotions, but we do have a couple. And one of them would be aromatherapy based, which is the core product that I started with 21 years ago. And then the others, as we did more research and I learned more about the importance of unscented and using water first for newborns, I then introduced some completely unscented products, and that means they have no essential oils at all. So everything from healing balms and natural soothing lotions to massage oils, gentle washes, shampoo, handmade cleansing bars that are produced on a farm for us. We supply a lot of the raw materials, so the formulations are ours and the IP is very safe. But pretty much everything that I think a new mother could need for her baby, we would have.
I love aromatherapy. I'm big on aromatherapy, and it's got, I mean, all the essentials have got medicinal properties in them anyway. So just and not just that. I think that even with my son, when he was growing up, I used to put calming oils like lavender and chamomile and with some soft music, and I really could see the difference that it had on him, how it just settled him into his sleep.
I totally agree. Look, I did go back to school despite having left so early, and I did a diploma of aromatherapy over 3 years part-time, and then I went back and studied infant massage as an instructor. So I thought those two kind of tactile skills would really enhance, I suppose, the professional role that I had in educating both midwives and consumers in an area that was quite new back then.
But even now, I mean, you don't hear very often where, people take their babies for a massage.
No, and in fact, we do run workshops on wellness and mother and baby skincare and massage, and talk about the importance of touch and how the power of touch can actually help benefit and empower the mums, and particularly help even the new dads bond with their babies and other siblings in the family. So I think that's quite a unique part of what we do, because the sector that we're in now is quite saturated in Australia. There are lots of different baby care brands to choose from. I think the qualities of ours are quite different, because the fact that this was produced for my own child and there was nothing like it in the world at the time meant that I very, very specifically hand chose oils from different regions, different grades, and they're in different percentages, and I owned that formulation. So it's not like going to a laboratory and just having something produced by a chemist, or something that's an existing formula they have, which is produced to a price point mostly. Ours is quite a health professional, or more of a professional kind of quality. It's more of that mid to higher end.
Yeah. And I just, as you were saying, the power of touch, it reminded me, I read an article a little while back now, just the power of connection, when it was a story about a children's hospital, where the nurses, they found that when they were holding children that were, ill,
Yes.
how quickly they recovered from the illness just by daily, hugs and just holding them and caressing them and so forth. So it's very, very powerful to be able
Absolutely.
to,
Absolutely.
like even massaging.
Yes. Look, there are lots of studies around that talk about particularly preterm babies being discharged from hospital up to 5 days earlier than babies that are not massaged. There is a lot of evidence around the power of touch in terms of the parents, even the midwives sometimes, holding the babies and reducing the heart risk and reducing the steroids and the stress levels, the stress cortisones that they're producing, which do help them to get well quicker. It really is just wonderful.
That's amazing. So I guess for me, I remember back then when I was also into the aromatherapy, there's obviously some oils that you can't use on babies, and there's obviously some oils you can't use when you're pregnant. Do you want to talk to us about that a little bit?
Of course. And again, that's another thing that probably sets our brand a little bit apart from some of the other things that are out there. There are oils such as some of the strong citrus, the lemons, the tea trees, um, even some of the herbaceous oils. They are quite strong for babies, and I wouldn't use them in a formulation, and we haven't. But there are things out there that do contain these types of oils, and although they're targeted for babies, sometimes the natural or organic oil can be the strongest or the most irritating factor in an overall product. So we really need to be responsible in terms of our manufacturing and in terms of our knowledge around the ingredients that we use, particularly as a brand owner. If you're not owning the brand or you're not owning the formulations and you haven't developed them, so you don't have that intimate understanding of the power of those essential oils and how they can affect the body. For babies, I mean, with essential oils, when they're young, they do need to metabolize it through the liver. So we're looking at very, very simple essential oils, such as those in the lavender family and in the chamomile family. But even there are a few different variations that we can choose from. I love the German chamomile, which is a more expensive, very deep blue indigo type oil, and it has a lot of healing properties, particularly around inflammation. So the main constituent there is an ingredient called chamazoline, which is from the azulene family, and it's an anti-inflammatory. So if you think of a hot, red, inflamed skin situation, this is a beautiful, nurturing oil to help soothe and reduce the inflammation. And that can be in an emotional state as well as in the skin. So it's beautiful. It's a really, really beautiful herbaceous oil that is safe for babies.
I love the German chamomile, the blue oil. I use that with a bit of peppermint and some curry oil, and sometimes I just use a little bit on my temple when I've got a headache.
Lovely. Just gorgeous.
Catherine, you sound like you've got a lot of energy and very, very motivated. So what drives you?
Look, I don't know. Sometimes the most favourite thing, I suppose, about having my own business and having sustained, it for so long is that I've got really flexible hours. And although they're quite long at the moment, we're almost having like a rebirth of our business with so much attention from overseas and particularly from China. But I still have the flexibility to work a bit from home and work around my children, even though they're kind of grown up. And I'm really able to focus on the areas that I'm passionate about, the media part, the marketing, the branding, product development. Also really passionate about making a difference, and whether it's mentoring women through some of the different programs that the government run, like Women in Global Business, or whether it's just through running a workshop for, I'm actually doing something for a women's shelter in Sydney coming up in August, where they're women that suffer from situations of domestic and family violence. So what we're doing is trying to just, again, help empower them and support them in feeling great about themselves and feeling confident in touching and nurturing their babies. So there's a lot of amazing, beautiful things that I get to do by running my own business, and there's just a few of them.
Wow. So do you do all that yourself? You do all your branding, media, marketing, everything yourself?
Look, in terms of that part of the business, they're my favourite kind of things, and they come very easily. I did work for a magazine, and I still do some freelance writing. So anything to do with media and writing is very easy for me to do. The marketing, I guess, it's all part of it. Because that category didn't exist, I had to create information and marketing materials for the whole sector. So you do become a bit of an expert by default, and you do become really, really well. You're really good at, I guess, what you do because you've been doing it for so long. But it's, I suppose, like working with children's hospitals and working with women and babies is something I am really passionate about, and it does drive me.
Well, it's amazing. Like, there's no way I have my team that look after the marketing, branding, media, social media. There's just no way in the world I would be able to do that as well as everything else.
Yeah, well, I suppose my team is more around operations, warehousing, administration, and even when I try and sort of step back from the export side, I really am just so passionate about it. And I think with export, when you tell your story, they are so engaged, and they value your story, and they value what you've done, and they really care, and I just love it. And I think nobody can really repeat the story the way I can, and it's hard to let go of that. So I think I may as well do what I'm best at and what I'm most passionate about, and let my little team, sort of support me with the other areas.
So if you had to pick one thing, what's the best part out of your job? Because you do a lot, but if you had to pick one thing, what is the best part?
I think making a difference. It's just me in my own little way in a lot of different areas, but it is definitely making a difference. That whether it's helping a parent with eczema, whether it's doing these workshops, whether it's mentoring women in business and helping them to believe in themselves and believe that they can achieve whatever it is that they're chasing. I think that's what it's about. It's making that little difference in your own way.
You've got so much energy, Catherine. I've got this boost of energy just speaking to you. It's quite amazing.
Oh, that's lovely.
So, Catherine, with the benefit of hindsight, what would you have done differently in your life or career?
I probably would say I did leave school a little bit too early. I would have liked to have had some more formal business qualifications behind me. Although as an entrepreneur, creating a new category in retail, perhaps if I had have had more education and more time at school, I wouldn't have been the hands-on, passionate entrepreneur that I am. So, yes, I would have liked to have had some more formal training, but, hey, I've learnt a lot on the job and that's what I do.
Yeah, and we were talking about this before. I left school at 16 and left home at 16. And I think that, I've gone back studying as an adult and continue to study, but I don't think that's a bad thing. And I think that it makes you who you are today. I think if you, like you said, you're the entrepreneur and, the things that you've done, you probably would have not been able to do that if you didn't leave school at 15. So
I totally agree. Totally agree.
Yeah. So, Catherine, what's the best piece of advice that you have ever been given?
Oh, the best piece of advice that I have been given is probably to believe in myself. The role that I was retrenched from when that company closed down, the boss was an older gentleman, and I actually started in that company in my early 20s, and I was in an admin role. And he came into me one day and he said to me, look, you've got a really keen eye for product development and fashion. What about if I give you a promotion and I give you your own office and I get you working on Sportsgirl and that kind of thing? And I said, no, that sounds too much like a sales job to me. And he said, no, it's not. It's product development. I'll give you a pay rise, a car, send you overseas, give you an office, and if you don't like your job, you can take your old role back. So I think he really encouraged me to believe in myself, and my whole career took a turn. And it was then that I actually did my first overseas trip. And as it happened, unfortunately, the female manager that I travelled with had an accident in Hong Kong on the second day that we were there, and ended up in hospital with a knee reconstruction for a month. So I got thrown in the deep end and had to do all the appointments that she had set up. And I just thrived. I just loved it. So I think, to believe in yourself was a great piece of advice, and certainly something that I encourage other women in business to do as well.
And I don't think anything's a coincidence. I think all of those things actually happen for you, to put you in that position, for you to shine.
For sure, yes.
So, Catherine, what is the greatest lesson you have ever learned?
I think, for me, having left school so early and being so independent and so, let's say, determined. My children say it's stubborn, but determination. You always look for the lesson in the challenges that you have. There's been lots of challenges, but I think business in general is not easy. It has a lot of ups and downs, but it's about taking something positive away every time there is a challenge, whether it's a legal issue that somebody's tried to mimic the look of the product, whether it is a trademark that you missed out on by a day and you have to work out how you can secure it in a particular region, whatever it is, whether it's a delay at the laboratory and you've got advertised product. All of those things you can use to learn how we could do this better. How can we do this differently? What went wrong here? What could we have done that, may have avoided it? So I think always looking for the positive in the lessons and in the challenges that we have.
So, Catherine, how do you find the balance in your ups and, because you're talking about having your ups and downs in business, how do you find the balance between those ups and downs?
Look, I try and have some me time, and sometimes it's as random as getting on a plane for business, where I've got a seat, for 10 hours that nobody interrupts me, and I have somebody waiting on me and feeding me, and I don't have to answer any phone calls. That's not a great way of getting downtime, but for me, I do spend some quality time, or I spend a lot of quality time with my children, and we eat meals together all the time. We talk about everything all the time, and it really brings you back down to earth. and connects you with your core. Because the reason I'm doing this is A, because I became a mother, and B, to help empower other mothers and to work around my children. So I try and, have balance around family time. I went back to adult ballet classes a couple of years ago. I'm learning French. So just as long as you can do some things that you're really passionate about that aren't just work, because we're passionate about work, but we need other stuff as well.
Oh, c'est très bien. Je suis française. I was actually born in France, in Briançon. Really? Yes.
Oh, I'm so jealous.
Oh, that's okay. We can have some French lessons a little bit later on if you like.
Sounds good.
So, Catherine, what advice would you give your younger self?
Oh, it's okay to dream big, but perhaps have more of a plan, because a lot of our business growth has come out of reacting to an opportunity, and we don't really need to seek out a lot of opportunities because they just come to us, especially after 2 decades. But I think being reactive rather than having a clear strategy is not always the right way to go. And as our business grows, having a plan and a strategy to manage the growth moving forward is really, 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 really crucial.
Yeah, wow. Dream big. I like that one. I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
Do you ever worry about anything? Like, do you have anything that ever keeps you up at night?
Look, not generally about the business. I had trouble sleeping sort of for a long time. Up until last year, I took my first kind of holiday with a couple of girlfriends, and we did France and Italy. And after that, I just found this peace, and I was able to sleep really restfully, and it was just wonderful. It sort of really changed my quality of sleep. So I don't lose sleep as such over business, but it would normally be matters of the heart. So if my 2 sons are tucked up in bed and I know they're home safe, then I'm happy and I can relax. I would generally debrief, my work stuff with my staff or my partner or a close girlfriend. But I think, look, mostly it would be, if I was awake at night, it would be worrying about, something to do with the children, I would say, but certainly not business.
Oh, very good. That's interesting. It's very rare that most people in business, they tend to lose sleep over business, and I like the fact that you don't lose sleep over business.
Well, my partner's in the industry, and I guess my children have grown up with me talking about business every day, from the big highs to the little highs, and we celebrate all the little things, and we talk about the challenges. So I guess I have a lot of verbal outlet, if you like. Yeah.
So, Catherine, who's been your greatest influence?
It'd have to be my children. I began the business because of them. I began because I became a mother the first time. I had a big 6-year gap, so my second little bubba arrived, and it was almost like I had 2 single children. But every time, something monumental happened, it was really around the children. So I would have to say that, as corny as it sounds, or as cliche as it sounds, that in my industry and in the sector that I'm in, and what I've done as a business over 2 decades has really been because I became a mum, and I combined, this passion and this drive and a business sense with being able to provide something in this sector. So, and it was only as a result of being a mum, because I'm sure that I would have stayed in fashion and style and something else, not baby products, had I not been a mother.
Catherine, I don't think it's corny at all. I think it's absolutely beautiful that your sons are your greatest influence. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what we do with all of our women of inspiration, we always ask them to pick one word that best describes their personal brand. So if you had to pick one word that describes you or your personal brand, what would that word be?
I'd say authentic, and that would be for obviously me in my personal life and about the business. The brand is centered around authenticity, information, transparency. It's come about as a result of following a genuine passion and developing something that didn't exist. So, look, I think authenticity is the word that I would choose.
Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. So as we do with every single show, we always wrap up with 3 golden nuggets that we always ask our women of inspiration to share with our listeners. So what would be your 3 golden nuggets that you would like to give to our listeners?
Okay. I would always say to do lots and lots of research, know the market that you're going into well, whether it's a domestic market, whether it's a product or service, or whether it's export, but understanding the key points of difference of what you're bringing to market. So it's not going to be replicating something, but it really has its own key points of difference. I think that's really important. Approaching business with an attitude of service. What benefit will your product or service bring to a consumer or the marketplace? How can I serve, not what's in it for me and what am I going to get out of it? I really love that philosophy. And the other more practical thing is probably to protect your IP. And these days, it does include a lot more than just registering a trademark or a patent. We have social media handles and domain names and trademarks as well that need to be registered and secured in order to build your business down the track. And often these are in multiple geographic regions, and sometimes they're even in foreign languages. In Chinese, for example, where we needed to register our Aromababy name and then another Chinese name or a sounding name like Aromababy in that language. And if you are going into an export market, I will just add as a little side note to always try and embrace the culture and maybe even learn a few words of the local language. I think that's really fun and it's a good icebreaker.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the one to be of service. And I think that's a very different energy when you're doing business for yourself, very different to when you're doing something to be a service to others.
Agree, totally. Yes.
So, Catherine, how do our listeners find you?
Well, our Facebook page is /Aromababy Organic Baby Skincare, and there's more than 20,000 fans there, so it's pretty easy to find that page. On Instagram, we have Aromababy_official. I also have my own profile page if they want to look at the writing or the style stuff that I do, which is they can just follow the handle Lady Catherine's Life, or it's under Ms. Aromababy. We also have, obviously, our website, which is aromababy.com. And it is a little bit outdated, but it's been there for nearly 2 decades and has extremely high rankings with search engine optimization. So we've been reluctant to change any of that, but we are certainly looking at updating the site. And they can also find us on Twitter under the Miss Aromababy as well. So it's just MS Aromababy, one word.
Catherine, thank you so very much for coming on the show. And I'm just pumped with energy. You're just amazing. You're just very fast-paced, very energetic. So, and I'm sure that people, once they listen to this interview, they'll be feeling exactly the same. So I hope they're listening to it early in the morning while they're driving to work and be absolutely pumped to get, start their day.
Me too. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Bye-bye.
That brings us to the end of another episode. I hope you enjoyed the show, as it is my mission to reach out and inspire as many individuals like you. And one of the best ways to help us achieve this goal is by giving us a good review on iTunes. It's easy and it only takes about 10 seconds. If you have any questions or special guests that you would like to hear from, please send us an email to support@catherineplano.com.au and we will get right back to you. You can also follow us on Instagram, Twitter or Facebook @Catherine Plano. That's it for now. Thanks for listening. Until next week, please take care.